If you're thinking about becoming a project manager, I need you to hear something that almost nobody talks about. The biggest surprise isn't learning schedules. It isn't learning risk management. It isn't even learning how to lead meetings. The biggest surprise is realizing you never actually stopped learning project management. Now, I know that may sound discouraging, but I promise you, it's actually one of the best parts of this thing that I love, that I hope you fall in love with, called project management. Because if you're waiting for the day you know everything about project management, I'll let you in a little secret. That day will never come. And after more than a decade of leading projects, I can confidently tell you I am still learning. When I first got into project management, I thought there would be eventually a point where I wouldn't have to figure out everything. I already know exactly how every project should be run, exactly how every stakeholder should communicate, exactly how every organization should lead projects. Then I got a knock at the door. We call that reality because it showed up. I joined different companies, different industries, different leadership teams, different cultures, and I kind of quietly started realizing something. Project management wasn't changing, the environment was. Every organization had its own way of getting work done. Some were highly structured, others move incredibly fast. Some wanted documentation for everything, others wanted a 5-minute conversation. And then, I realized something. Project management isn't a destination, it is a profession built on continuous learning. Here's a reflection, family, I want you to think about. Have you ever noticed how often we believe there's one right way to manage projects? I know I did. But if the goal isn't finding the perfect methodology, what if the goal was becoming the kind of leader who can succeed no matter what methodology your organization uses? Now, that's a perspective that changed everything for me. And it leads us to our very first principle. Principle number one: learn, then master the fundamentals. Every profession has a foundation. Pilots learn principles of flight. Accountants learn accounting principles. Project managers learn the fundamentals. Oh, you want to talk about the fundamentals? Planning, communication, risk management, scope, stakeholder management, leadership, scheduling, and governance. Those principles don't constantly change. That's why certifications like the CAPM and PMP matter. They teach you the language of project management, but here's what they don't teach you. They don't teach you every organization's unique way of applying those principles. And that's where many new project managers become frustrated. Here's a lesson, family. Preparation gives you competence, it doesn't promise comfort. Those are two different things. Here's two actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. First, don't rush through the fundamentals because you're eager to manage bigger projects. And I get it. That's how you want to show that you can add value, because I know I did. But I learned that strong foundations support bigger responsibilities. Second, every project you complete, ask yourself one question: what fundamental skill helped this project succeed? Over time, you begin seeing a pattern. Here's my professional advice, family. Don't chase advanced techniques before you've mastered the basics. The professionals who make project management look easy usually aren't using any secret strategies. They just simply become exceptional at the fundamentals. Now, once you've built a strong foundation, something surprising begins to happen. You realize not everyone plays by the same rules. Principle number two: every organization has their own playbook. One of the biggest surprises for new project managers is discovering that every organization has its own playbook for how projects are led. Now, before I go any further, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Organizations don't choose a project management approach because one methodology is universal better than the other. They choose the approach that best supports their business, their customer, their industry, their people. One company may expect detailed project schedules, steering committees, governance reviews, and formal documentation. Another company may prioritize speed, flexibility, and quick conversation. Some organizations expect project managers to facilitate discussions, and others expect them to drive decisions. Some follow agile, some prefer predictive. Many combine multiple approaches together. I've worked in organizations where every project looked completely different. And you know what? None of them were necessarily wrong. They were simply playing from different playbooks. The biggest mistake new project managers make is believing every company should operate exactly the way they learned during certification training. The real world simply doesn't work that way. The best project managers don't spend the first month trying to change the playbook. They spend the very first month learning it. Here's the lesson I want you to think about, family. Your ability to understand an organization's playbook is often more valuable than trying to convince everyone else to use yours. Influence begins with understanding, not correcting. Here's two actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. First, when you join a new organization, spend your first few weeks asking questions before offering solution. Curiosity builds credibility. Second, pay attention to how leaders make decisions. Understanding their decision-making process is just as important as understanding the project itself. Here's my professional advice. One of the fastest way to lose credibility is assuming your previous company did everything better. Every organization has its strength. Your job, your accountability isn't to compare. Your job is to understand. And once you understand the playbook, there's one skill that determines whether you will simply survive or truly thrive. Principle number 3, adaptability is your greatest skill. Ooh, I like that, family, because people often ask me, what is the most important project management skill out there? They expect me to say something like communication, leadership, risk management, scheduling, and they're partly correct, and those are all important. But if I can only choose one, I would choose adaptability because every project is different, every stakeholder is different, every executive is different, every team is different, and every organization is definitely different. The project managers who built incredible careers aren't the ones who memorize most terminologies. They're the ones who can walk into a new environment and ask, how do projects succeed here? Then they adapt, they observe, they learn, they build trust. Only then do they begin improving the organization. That's why two project managers can hold the exact same certification, yet produce completely different results. One learned project management, the other learned how to adapt. Here's the lesson I want you to think about, family. Your greatest competitive advantage is a combination of what you already know and your willingness to become adaptable enough to learn what you don't. Now, that's true wisdom. Wisdom isn't simply having experience. Wisdom comes from applying what you've learned while remaining open to better ways of doing things. The moment you believe there's only one right way to lead a project, you've stopped growing already. The best project managers never stop learning because they understand that every project, every organization, and every challenge has something new to teach them. Here's two actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. First, whenever you start a new project, spend more time observing than talking. You also want to learn what is not being said during the project because you'll learn even more by listening. Second, become comfortable asking questions. The strongest leaders aren't afraid to admit they don't know everything, and you're not supposed to know everything. They're committed to learning quickly. Here's my professional advice. After more than a decade of leading projects, I still ask questions. I still learn from people around me. I still discover better ways to lead projects. That isn't a sign of weakness. It's one of the reasons I've continued to grow throughout my career. Here's the final reflection, family. Before you become a project manager, don't focus on becoming someone with all the answers. Focus on becoming someone who is always willing to learn because certifications teach you the frameworks. Experience develops your judgment, but adaptability is what transforms great project managers into exceptional project managers. After more than a decade, I'm still learning. And honestly, I hope I never stop learning because the day we believe we learned everything is the day we stop growing. Here's my closing thoughts, family. The reason I create these episodes is simple. I want to build confident leaders who know how to influence, adapt, and create real business value because project management continues to evolve. The tools will change. Technology will change. Organizations, yeah, they will change. The way one company leads projects may look completely different from another, but through all of the change, one thing remains consistent: the fundamentals of project management, strong communication, leadership, planning, risk management, and building trust. And most of all, creating alignment. Those principles have stood the test of time. They will continue to separate exceptional project managers from average ones from years to come. So wherever you are in your journey, whether you're preparing for the CAPM or stepping into your first project coordinator role or leading an enterprise program, never stop learning, never stop adapting because the best project managers aren't the ones who know everything. They're the ones who are always willing to learn what's next. If you enjoyed today's episode, remember, sets and reps beat talent when talent doesn't do the reps. And if you're new to the episode, I go by the name ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, hey, listen, that just simply means Ed. Until next time.